Hey Virgo, I already started your reading multiple times, but my dog kept interrupting, which actually um, leads me to the last card, or actually the second card in your spread here. Man, that last reading was actually getting really good. And then he started barking, and instead of pausing the video, I stopped it. So anyways, let's just start over. We're going to keep the same cards on the table. We start with the Justice card. And the Justice card, man, I don't even know if I should say all the things I said before. I'm not going to, basically I was just talking about all the symbolism, which is funny because your fourth card here, you've got four cards on the table so far. I haven't gotten to your advice yet. So, but we've got four cards on the table, and your fourth one is basically, you'll see what I'm saying, but it ties all this in. So your first card is the Justice in reverse. And instead of telling you about all the symbolism, I'm just going to jump to what my intuition brought me to, which was this veil back here, which it's alluding to the High Priestess card. And the veil behind it is what is, it's the subconscious realm. It's the 5D realm. It's the Akashic records. It's everything that spirit has to offer outside of the physical realm. Okay, outside of the 3D. And what I noticed here is that there's a crack, and so I think that there's an attempt, I think, or a request. Let's call it an attempt right now, an attempt for open communication. And I think that perhaps it's you seeking communication. And I say that because while I said I wasn't going to talk about symbolism, I do see this sword of truth here. And it's, well, air, swords are air is communication. When there's one sword in the card, my gut reaction is to oftentimes say that is the sword of truth, right? So I feel like there's some truth seeking here going on, and that is through the subconscious realm. That is through the 5D. That is, but I think this is a request for that. I think that you are seeking maybe access to the Akashic records if you're of spiritual mind. It could be that, okay, we're going to go with that because the rest of your reading follows that same track. So next is the Death card, and I got a few things with this Death card. So first and foremost, if you want access to anything in the spiritual realm, and I say this from experience, there has to come, to an extent, to a great extent, I would say, probably all the way, a death of the ego. And when I say ego, what I mean is the personality traits, the characteristics, the many faces that we put on in society, in humanity, oftentimes it's to protect ourselves, but no matter the reason, it's who we are as a human being. But there has to be a death of that in order to ascend, in order to achieve something greater in the spiritual realm, okay? And I think that that's where you're at, or I think all of this is a progression, right? But I think that there's that, of course, justice I said, and then the death comes next. I think there's a request for information, a request for guidance, a request for just communication in general, maybe not even information, just like communication with spirit guides or whatever it is you believe, angels, spirit guides, ancestors, ascended masters, which I don't even know what those are, aliens, which some people communicate, say, are, I don't even know how to say it. They believe that is their route of communication with the spirit realm, and I don't know if I actually just don't understand whether they mean like actual physical aliens, which I believe in, or a spiritual alien. I'm not really sure, but no matter what you believe, and I'm not laughing because I think it's crazy. I'm laughing because I have a vastly different belief. Actually, I guess it's not that different. I mean, it's different than the aliens and ascended masters, because I don't even know what ascended masters are. But I lean toward Hermeticism, where like we're all connected, we're all one, we're all stardust, and we, because of, you know, that we're all one and all stardust and all pieces of the universe, then that leads me to the constellations in our galaxy. I'll get there though. That's not where I'm at right now. For now, let's just talk about this ego death. In order to have that communication with whatever it is you believe in, there has to be a death of the ego, a death of the physical, the person you are in a physical state, and see yourself as a spiritual being, as a soul, and look a little deeper at the soul level of who you are in order to have this open communication. Like you can't, you have to have some sort of release of beingness, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway, so what I was getting at with the constellations is this, all these stars here made me think of the constellations, right? And so I lean more towards, again, Hermeticism, which is, you know, ancient Egyptian belief systems that I'm not going to say that I believe that our constellations are gods or demigods, whatever. But I do believe that because we are all made of stardust and we are all connected, that we all have all of those zodiacal energies within us, right? We have, Gareth, don't bark again. You ruined my last video. So, see, that was very egoic, right? He ruined my last video. But he kind of did. I had to start it completely over because I was almost done and I accidentally pressed stop. So anyways, yeah, if we're all bits and pieces of the zodiac, then we all have, you know, Aries energy and Gemini energy and Virgo energy, etc. And we can use those to find out who we are at a soul level, right? So anyways, as I was saying, there has to be this ego death. And I think, well, not I think, certainly with all endings, which the death is, comes new beginnings, right? And so when I saw your next card, Ace of Swords, I had that meaning and symbology in mind of a new beginning. But specifically, I think because this is air, the swords are air, I think it's this is that open door to communication. This is that invitation even from spirit to have a discussion, to offer you information. This is that information doorway, information access. This is the key. It's like the key, right? The same one that's in the Justice card, that sword of truth. It's the key to behind that veil. And it's here for the taking, like it's yours. So, but then we come to the Seven of Swords and it's in the reverse. So my first reaction was to try and think about the symbolism. And this is where I was going in the Justice card. Because I had something I was gonna, or that I did say in the first video about the scales, which I think are unimportant, okay? And I think that's why this card is so important in your reading, because the symbolism in that card did not make any difference in your reading at all, and it was just extra that I didn't need to add, right? So in this card, my first gut reaction was to tell you about the symbolism in it, tell you about the meaning of the card in the upright and then in the reverse. And then I looked at it for a moment and I was like, I think that's exactly what this card is telling us not to do, right? Not that symbolism isn't important, because it is. If I didn't know the symbolism in this card, I couldn't give you the guidance that it's giving you, right? So I'm really trying really hard not to do that right now again. But what I saw instead was this cat has all of these symbols on his body. Then they mean something. This isn't just artwork. They all have some sort of meaning behind them. Like I can see the three of swords in here. I can see a snake. I can see an anchor. I can see I mean, there's all sorts of things, and they're not just artwork. They are symbolism. And so then my first thought was, when I saw that, is because this card is in the reverse, first I thought, well, maybe there's a blockage. I don't think that. I think that it's just this is advice, and I will get you a card of advice, but I think that this is advising us here. No, that was actually where I was at when my dog started barking. So yes, this is a card of advice. However, it is also where you are right now, I think, in your journey here on this table. I think this is the step you're on. This is where you are. And where you are is not ignoring, but taking the importance off of symbolism and instead focusing on your intuition. And I say that because we have the moon card here. The moon indicates intuition. It symbolizes intuition, right? Because the moon card in the tarot is a Pisces card, right? Pisces is very intuitive. It's very esoteric. And so I think that I was drawn to this moon, which I don't think I normally am, but because this reading specifically, I think that's why I was drawn to it. So I think that all this symbolism here in the reverse is just saying, like, don't make that the symbolism your main focus. So if you're seeing signs and synchronicities and whatever, because I do this too. I do it all the time. For example, I've had a little cardinal out here flittering for hours this morning. And I want to connect that to what the cardinal means, but I think that it's advising against that. Like, if you have signs and synchronicities, try not to focus so hard on what that symbolizes and focus more on what it's trying to tell you, like what feeling you get, what thoughts you have when you see these signs and synchronicities. What is it guiding you towards? What is your intuition guiding you towards? In addition to that, so if we're going to talk about symbolism, this card in the upright, the Seven of Swords, is a card of, some people call it like the lying, cheating, stealing, deceit type card. So in the reverse, I'm still guided towards the swords, the information, the truth. Okay, I'm still leaning towards that that meaning. And so I think that the key with the Ace of Swords to gaining access to the truth is to focus less on symbolism and more on intuition. But I think that's where you are right now. I don't think that that's necessarily your advice, but I will try to get you a card of advice. If nothing wants to come out, then we'll assume that's what it was. I forgot to get a clarifying card for Leo, but I don't think they really needed it. I don't think that was a coincidence or an accident. Okay, this is strange. Nothing wants to come out for you. Since the Seven of Swords might be your advice, I'm inclined to say that because I was reading it as advice in the first video, and I still instinctively did in the second video, this one here. So I'm inclined to say the Seven of Swords is your advice. So I'm gonna clarify it. I love this deck here. The Four of Air. The pictures are just so beautiful. Four of Air. In the typical Four of Air, I think there's 3. I don't have my Rider-Waite-Smith deck right now, but I think, so it's a card of rest, and I think that typically there's like a warrior or whatever laying on the slab, and 3 of the swords are going sideways, and I don't remember what's going on with the other one. I don't know if he's holding it or if it's on the wall. I don't remember. But I believe that there's one separate from the others. Let me see if that's the case in this cat deck here. If I can find it. I may have already passed it. These are very different. Oh, here we go. Nope, that's the Knight. That's the 2. Here we go. Okay, so 3 of them are on the wall and 1 of them is sideways. And I think that's the same in the Rider-Waite deck. So this one's sideways. Again, I feel like that's the truth. That's the key. And we have the 4 of air. This is the 4 of swords is the 4 of air. And the 4 of air is what came out to clarify that 7 of swords as your advice. So if we're going by the traditional meaning, then, well, that's suggesting rest and recuperation. I think before a battle, but yeah, before a battle. I don't feel like a battle is coming though. I feel like maybe it's more, well, the information. So see here we have this brain up in the top. It looks like a brain. I mean, it could be anything. It could be a tree. It could just be, you know, like photons and stuff from this, because this is a fire here. I guess there's photons in fire. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But I think like everything in the body, everything out in nature looks like a tree, right? So there's no telling what this is, but to me, it looks like a brain. And because it is another card of another sword card, that is air. Air is communication, anything in the mental space, right? If we're looking at this as the sword of truth, because again, in that 4 of swords, we have that sword of truth again, all by its lonesome. Which I don't know if I said this already, but when I have sword cards and I see that there's one sword off on its own, just me personally, I tend to gravitate towards the idea that that particular sword is the sword of truth. And so that's kind of what I hone in on sometimes. So this is the truth though, right? If we're going on that meaning of that card that I just had. And because this is a brain, brains hold information. They hold communication. This is where we communicate from. And our brains communicate with the rest of our bodies. Our brains communicate, you know, with spirit, source, whatever, God, whatever you want to call it. And I think that is, oh man. I wanted to say that was just what was clarifying the 7 of swords is like, well, I'm changing my mind here. I'm changing my mind. So what this is meaning to me now, because I did not even notice this before. And I've never noticed this in this card when I see it. But this tree, this, whatever this is, I guess the trunks, the roots system, it's meditating. It's meditating. And I think that that's meant to be the symbolism in the card, because here, well, this cat's not laying down. Typically the person is laying down here on this slab, resting and recuperating, right? He's not sleeping, I don't think. I don't know if he is or not, but I'm leaning towards the idea that he's meditating, right? He's getting his mind right. He's preparing for battle, and preparation for battle has to start in the mind. You know, you have to put your brave face on, right? Which I don't think this is putting your brave face on. I think this is more just sitting in silence, sitting in stillness, allowing your brain to make the connections to, I mean, your brain has to rest, right? And I don't think it's sleep kind of rest. I think it's meditative rest. It's quiet and stillness. I don't know if that all connected for you like it did in my brain, because I think I skipped over some stuff and kind of lost my train of thought at some point. But that's the idea that I'm seeing the clarification here is that I think in order to hear your intuition loudly enough, this meditative state is what's necessary. Like, this brain is on fire, right? It is moving very fast. Fire moves fast. This brain is, I mean, I guess it doesn't move as fast as air, but which is wild because this is the 4 of air. I mean, you have to have oxygen to increase the fire, right? Oh, and then that's making me think of breath, like breath work. Okay, my mind is going in 1,000 different directions, but it's all alluding to the same thing, which is, you know, breath is life, right? I'm just going to leave it at that because my mind is going in lots of different directions, and this video will get very long. But basically that breath work, maybe, meditation, maybe, those sorts of activities are what are going to help you achieve this intuitive state that you're longing for in order to gain that information from the other side of the veil. Whether that's the Akashic records you're looking for or just guidance for your own soul. If you're asking for Akashic record access, then I just ask that you please use it wisely and for the greater good. Let me find, I pulled an oracle card for you from Between Worlds. It's my favorite because it is short and sweet, and it usually wraps these up really nicely. You got the Orphan, and it's on page 80. All right, here's the Orphan. And I see, oh my goodness gracious, I'm seeing so much stuff in all these cards, and I don't want this to get too long. But you see all these birds on the outside? I usually don't even look at the pictures in these cards that deeply. I usually just go with the message in the book. But you see all these birds, right? And then we see all the stars in the background. I feel like these birds, for me personally, are the constellations or the spirit guides or the ancestors or whatever it is that is going to help you achieve your goal here. It's going to help you gather the information you're looking for and maybe relay that information to you and push you in the direction you want to be in. Whew, man. Oh my gosh. And it's Gemini air, more information, more communication. I did Gemini this morning. You should go check that out. Okay, a juvenile type. The orphan finds their way amongst the stars. Ah! Sorry, I'm just really excited. They've not always had it so easy, and as such have developed a fierce independence. Though a lone figure, the orphan is not weak and afraid. Their resilient, perceptive nature has gotten them quite far, and they can give names to shadows, looking directly at things most people fear. So that's also like, you know, oh my gosh, so much. I'm sorry. I shouldn't give you any more. I'm gonna though. So the moon, you know, like when I look at the moon card, and the moon is here in this card, that was the whole intuition thing. I think of like what is in the shadows, right? And behind the veil too. Like what information is in the shadows? What is hidden, right? That we don't have access to, but could. So I feel like you're giving names to the shadows, right? You're looking directly at things most people fear. The orphan, conversely, the orphan is learning to soften. Their work is in learning to love and receive the love they're giving. Man, this is really awesome. I love this. I do see a lot more in the pictures here, but I need to get off here because it's been a long time. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I am a Virgo too, so this really spoke to me. I think it would have spoken to me either way because this is amazing. But I think even more so because I'm a Virgo. So I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And if you did, I hope to see you next time. Bye.